Hey everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron, and today it is cold. And I know you guys up north are gonna say, oh, it ain't even that cold, blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm in Alabama. It don't get cold in Alabama, and it's cold. I've got a heater going over there. I got a propane heater going over there. I've had them running all day, like at least 4 hours probably. And we got the ice cube up to about 43 degrees. That's cooler than I prefer. But anyways, because it's so cold outside, we're working inside, and the next project in line was Dream On anyways. So we're gonna get back to it. Most of you probably haven't seen the first video on this truck because I wasn't very intelligent and I put it out on election day and it did terrible. Didn't really get any views. So I'm gonna put a link right here and you guys can go back and watch that if you want to. Or if you don't, I'll kind of catch you up with where we were at when we left off and we'll go from there. So it's getting a Holley Sniper throttle body Efi. Getting classic auto air, HVAC. The first video I explained all that and I tore everything down, and that's where we're at now. So we've got everything torn down. We're ready to get everything out and start going back together. And yeah, so I'm trying to get the temperature up in here because before I do anything, I want to touch up the paint over there. And you can't really touch up paint in 44 degrees. So I'm gonna start with the Sniper, get it put on, get it hooked up. We're gonna do some rewiring under the hood, and then we'll run our fuel system. It has an aftermarket aluminum fuel cell, I guess you'd say, in the truck. So that'll help us a little bit with hooking up the fuel system and whatnot. But we're still gonna have to get this thing jacked up, get it on jack stands, get underneath it, put in some work. So we'll see how it goes. If, you know, one video covers the whole EFI and the air conditioning, cool. If not, maybe we'll make two. But anyways, let's get started. All right. I'm sure you can tell what this is by the box. We got our Sniper EFI here. And this is the Sniper 1, not the new Sniper 2. I like the Sniper 1 better, and that's what we decided to go with. So, go ahead and get it out of the box. Check it over, make sure everything looks all right. Which it does. These don't come with it, neither does this. The gentleman that owns this truck bought this and sent it to me. So he put some other parts that I needed in the box with it. This is installation kit. This is our display screen. O2 sensor bungs. Wiring harness. O2 sensor. Temp sensor, all that. Here's our wiring harness for, this is the main harness that has the fuse and the relay and the fuel pump hookup and all that in it. And then we got our instructions with our gasket, which is what we were looking for. It's open on that end, so. All right, looking for this gasket. We're gonna go ahead and get this installed, and then I gotta decide if I want to start running the fuel system first or if we're gonna hook up the wiring first. Doesn't really matter, both gotta be done. So let's get her mounted and we'll see what we're gonna do. All right. If you guys haven't watched the first video, this is the big block, obviously. and we switched over. It did have a it wasn't a points distributor, but it had an ignition box with a coil and like a Pro Billet MSD distributor. We got rid of that and stabbed an HEI in here because, for one thing, the distributor that was in here was a mess, and I just like HEI's performance better for a daily driver. If you're gonna have a race car or something and want like some ultra spark or whatever, then yeah, you need a fancy distributor. But for this, it's just gonna be a daily driver or whatever. Way better off with the HEI. Now, I learned a long time ago when I installed the first one of these that I installed that they don't always like to sit down on there real nice and flat on the intake. And I learned that you don't want to put a lot of force on them to make them go down. This one's not a problem. It goes right down on there, so not a big deal. But just so you know, if you go to put one on and it doesn't seem like it's going down on there good, be very careful with it. Don't have that problem here because this one's fine. That wasn't necessary, but it was there, so we did it. All right. All right. Once again, while you're doing this, like I said about making sure that flange is sitting nice and flat, you don't want to just start with one bolt and crank this down. This is the same thing. I'm not like going way off the rails on this or anything. This is the same thing with a carburetor. Like, you want to be careful that you don't warp the flange, because then you end up with a vacuum leak and you got to start running thicker gaskets to make it seal and everything, and no need for all that. So you want to like go in a crisscross pattern, get it snug so that it's all down nice and even. And once you get it there, then you can go back and put a little extra on it, make sure it's tight. So, just a little trick, pretty important. There we go, got that on, and that's about it. I gotta figure out what we're going to do for hooking up this throttle cable, or linkage I guess you call it, which luckily, being the way that it is, I can adjust the rod instead of having to add brackets and whatnot to the linkage to make it the right length. So I'm going to have to move my return spring that I put on here, which is no big deal. And I got kick down cables down here that I'm gonna have to hook up and all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to go stand in front of that heater and warm up for a few minutes now because it's 36 degrees in here. And then I'll come back and we'll start working on hooking up linkages. And I want to get all the mechanical stuff hooked up, all of our vacuum lines and whatnot. Get all the mechanical stuff hooked up so that it's hooked up and done. And then we'll move on to wiring, fuel system, so on and so forth. Okay. So the owner of the truck was telling me that ever since somebody put a carburetor on it for him, or ever since he owned it, or something along those lines, it's never had full throttle. And the reason it's never had full throttle is because it's got a bent rod for a linkage on here, and I'll show you in just a second. I need to get this spring back off of here, but come on. All right, there we go. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this. I tried to zoom you in where you were close to it, but our linkage for our throttle body, sniper, whatever, is fully in the rest position or at idle or whatever you want to call it. Well, this is our rod for our fuel pedal, our throttle pedal, whatever. And when you pull it all the way forward, I'm 3/4 of an inch or better past where it would hook up. And on the Edelbrock carburetor that was on here, the linkage would have been like up here. So that was 1.5 inches. And that's with the pedal fully at rest. So if you bring this back, something's going on under there. I'm hitting this or something. All right, so there's a lot more about this pedal I got to figure out than I thought there was. And it might be the pedal itself. So let me check it out and find out for sure what's going on, because this should be all the way at rest, but it's not. There's no movement on it. Like, it's only moving maybe 1/2 inch, and that's not going to rev anything full throttle. So let me look into it. I'll bring you guys back. I'll tell you what I find, and then we'll go back to making that linkage work with the throttle body. Okay, well, I got down in here and alright, well, apparently that's not even attached to anything, but this sitting down in here, and with carpet and insulation and another layer of insulation, which is the factory insulation, you get all that, and it's kind of like sitting up like that. Like, you can see, I don't know if you can see it, I can see the wear spot where the pedal's been hitting it, but that's all the further that pedal will go. I can't even push down on it any further. We're talking like maybe 1/4 inch. Now, if I pull this down a little bit and tuck that down in there, now I can get, I don't know, inch, maybe 1.5 inches. So without like ruining this carpet or putting holes where they don't need to be or whatever, it's gonna be hard to get that down in there to stay. So I think what I'm gonna do is take the pedal out and warm it up and bend it up a little bit, to where even when the carpet's up, if this is bent out here, I'm not going to bend this part, I'm going to leave that like it is, But this slope here, I'm gonna bend out a little bit, which will let this, it won't hit down here, and it'll let it move more. And then we're gonna make sure we get our pedal back on down here the way it should be, and see what we got for movement. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm going to pull it out, and we'll see what we can do. I will work on getting it bent. It's cold in here. I'm kneeling down on a concrete floor, and I'm not happy about it. So I'll keep whining to myself, and I'll keep working. But that's what I got going on. That's what we're gonna do. I'd rather have it so that the pedal maxed out without making it to the floor than hit the floor before you get full throttle. So I might bend it a little further than it needs to go, but worst case scenario, we put a little throttle stop on the floor or up on the firewall so that it can only go so far and not put strain or bend the throttle blades on that throttle body. So I'm gonna get it out. We'll get it to where it moves as much as it needs to move, and then we'll work on the linkage to get it hooked up to do what it's. Okay, pardon the mess. I've been working on cleaning up the shop, but this is usually what happens when I get finished up with a project. Like, I just finished Waldo literally like days ago, and I haven't gone back and done the cleanup yet. And I've been trying to move stuff around and do some organizing, so regardless, it don't matter. I got a mess over here. Try to ignore it. So I have seen these pedals. What happens, obviously the carpet and the insulation are a big part of the problem, but also what happens over the years is, I just realized I got this set up backwards and I was about to bend it the wrong way. This needs to go. Needs to go like this. And get bent up. I was about to bend it the wrong way. Okay, well anyways, I've seen these where they've had braces welded between like here and here to keep it from bending, because over time, stomping on it, it'll bend, you know, down the wrong way. Like I said, granted, this one, a lot of it's just the floor, the carpet, the insulation, all that making the difference. But I thought about maybe putting a brace on there or something, but I'm not going to. So we'll get it warm. I don't even know if this little propane, this is a MAP gas torch, but I got a propane bottle on it. I don't know if it's even going to get it hot enough to turn red or anything, but hopefully it'll get it hot enough I can bend it some. If not, I got a big torch over here. It's just a lot more work to drag it all out and everything. So. Oh yeah, bending a lot easier than I thought it was going to. That was quite a bit. I want to make this, I'll show you guys better up close when I get done, but I want to make this part right here straight so that that kicks up. We're almost there. Like so. All right, now see if I can burn the crap out of myself to show you what we got going on. Okay, so I'm gonna get behind the camera and make sure I got you on the camera. Okay, so you see now, this here is perfectly straight, and then it kicks up for the pedal. This was bent down to about right here, and then this was pushing into the carpet when you'd push on it. So by me taking this and bending it up, brought this whole deal up away from the floor. It goes in there like this. So bending this out brought it up away from the floor. So I have to go pick my daughter up from school, and I can't put this back in as hot as it is on that carpet and stuff, so it's got to cool off anyways. So I'm gonna let it cool off. I'm gonna go get my baby girl and get her taken home. And hey, the back end of this wrench that I was using to bend that's hot too. And then by the time I get back from picking her up and dropping her off at her mom's house, this should be cooled off, and we can put it back in and see if we need to do more work on it or if we got the job done. So, got all our pieces. I'm gonna leave my wrench and my torch over here in case we need to do some more. And if not, it'll probably end up sitting there till I get around to cleaning up, but life goes on. So, see you in a minute. All right, before I get back into what we're doing, there's a heater sitting right there because I'm freezing to death. And you guys can probably hear it because the camera likes to pick up things like that for some reason extremely well. So I'm sorry if you get the resignation of the heater over there, but I'm freezing to death. So we're trying to do what we can do. Now, I got our pedal back in, and I can show you in a little bit, but it does what it's supposed to do inside. We've got plenty of throw to go wide open throttle. Now what I did out here, I don't know how well you guys can see this because it's kind of dark, but we got our pedal here, and that's it. Wide open throttle right there. And I mean, we're going quite a ways. So what I did is here, I set the center point of where I'm gonna hook my throttle rod up at 3 inches, and then I take this and I take it wide open, and we're at like 1.75 inches. So granted, you know, if I started at 0, that would be 1.25 inches of travel here. Is rest idle to wide open throttle. So that being said, I come back here, I gotta go from rest idle to wide open throttle. I need 1.25 inches, and I've got over 3 inches. So it worked out good. The pedal moves free inside there. It slides on the actual pedal like it's supposed to, and everything's good. We'll be able to get full throttle now. Now, the next thing is, I'm gonna grab the other camera so I can get up closer and you guys can see what I'm talking about. So we're gonna do this in angles the best that I can, but all the way down there, right here where my finger is, that's our throttle, which is down here. Now, where we need to connect to our linkage is up here. So with the brackets for the kickdown cable and everything else back here, running it at an angle from here to back there isn't feasible. The other thing is you want it to pull straight back, not at an angle, or as close to straight back as you can get it. That's the purpose. That's why when you got like a cable for your throttle, it goes on a bracket on the back of the carburetor or the throttle body, and it pulls straight because it's intended to pull straight. Now, if we go at an angle like it is right now, it's not going to pull straight, and we know that. So what we have is this right here is the top of our throttle pedal right now. So, and it's at an angle when it's at idle at rest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a bracket that matches this angle and then goes straight up. I know that's not You get the picture. That's at an angle. When that's on, it'll make this straight. So then I'll have a bolt hole here, a bolt hole here where it'll fasten to this, and then I'll have our spot up here at the top that we'll connect our linkage to. So that's gonna make it still a fixed style linkage, and it's gonna make it so we can use everything that we got, and we're just gonna raise it up a little bit so that it's where it needs to be. So I'm gonna get a piece of poster board, and draw out a little template for myself, and we'll make a little bracket. And I've got room that I can put it on this side of that pedal, and it'll make it perfectly line up straight with the throttle body for our other rod to go on to. So I'm gonna go ahead and get our template made. I may just go ahead and cut it out. I may show you the template before I do, but either way, we're gonna make that little bracket that'll bolt onto there. And I think I might tap the piece that I make to go on there. Depends how thick a piece I make, but if it's at least like an 1/8 inch thick, I might just go ahead and tap it, and then I can just run screws through the side and screw straight into it. So it cost me a little bit of work. It'll take up some time, but it'll be a lot cleaner than having bolts with nuts and everything else. So we'll see what happens. I'll show you what I do when I get done. All right, got my little template all made out. Cut my piece out, drilled my holes. Now I've got some 1/4-20 cap screws. So I drilled my holes to 13/64 because that's what size it said I needed to do for a 1/4-20 tap. So get these tapped out real quick, and then what I'll do is I'll put a Loctite on them, put them in there, and they should be good. I just think it'll look a lot cooler than, not cooler, a lot cleaner than having a bolt with a nut on the other side. And at the end of the day, I could take the throttle pedal back out, put this on there and weld it to it. But then if for some reason anybody ever gets their hands on this truck and decides that they want to restore it or go back to original, granted I doubt that that'll happen, but the chances of it are there. And then they have to go out and find a new pedal, where this is just an easily removable add-on. Take 2 bolts out, comes off. So I need all new taps, honestly, but I need one of those deals that turns the tap. My tap set is really old, and that piece is missing one of the jaws that hold the tap. So this is my tapping crescent wrench, but it's a lot more of a pain in the butt to do than having the tool. And I know I drilled it to the right size according to what my chart said. I don't know if this is heavy metal. It didn't seem to be when I cut it or anything, but tap doesn't seem to want to go into it. And I really don't want to break the top off, because at that point I throw it in that bucket of used stuff down there and start over. Probably use a little bit of cutting oil and speed up the process a little bit. No big deal. Only got to tap 3 holes. Should be done in about 3 hours. Alright, all tapped out. I drill this hole a little bit bigger so a 1/4-20 bolt will actually go through that for our linkage. And we'll be able to bolt this on and be making some progress. Okay, I was working on that throttle, bracket, linkage, throw, all that stuff. Pretty sure I already showed you guys. I got it done. It's drilled. I don't know if you can see in there or not, but the holes are tapped. I've got screws right here. I've already put Loctite on them to let it set up. Trying to get it warm enough in here that I can paint, or at least paint outside and let paint dry in here, but we're not getting there. And then I have a new piece of 1/4-inch rod because I'm doing all this stuff to this extremely nice truck and I'm trying to do a really clean install and I can't bring it on myself to put that back in. So got a new rod to put in there. One of those heim joints on the end, or the heims, or whatever you call them, is left-handed thread. I do not have a left-handed thread die. So I ordered a left-handed thread die. It's supposed to be here possibly tomorrow. And we can get back on making that. But in the meantime, I figured I'll keep moving on because it's not doing me any good to sit and wait, and the weather's only supposed to get colder. So throttle body's already on. You guys know that. I started going through wiring, and this was the fan controller that was in there. And it was mounted up in there. And I started looking at wiring and I went like, oh, well, that power wire that was going to that fan controller, we don't need that for that. We'll figure out where it goes and whatnot. So I started opening up wiring and found a rat's nest. Now, I'm not blaming anybody for this. I don't know if this got done in the 90s when this truck was built. I don't know if it got done more recently, but I can't leave that like that. It's just not me. And wires just all over. And then I start taking tape off and I come back here. We got butt connectors that are burnt. They're not heat shrink, so they didn't get burnt because they were heat shrink. We got bare wires sticking out of stuff all over the place. and a lot of them that went to places I don't even know what they do. So I pulled all the tape, all the loom, everything off of them. I'm gonna make sure I have everything set out, that I know what it is. I'm gonna take our headlight wires and stuff and seclude them, because all the lights and everything worked, so we don't need to do anything with those. And then all the other wires that I don't know what they are and don't know what they're supposed to do, I'm gonna hook the battery back up and key on, key off, yada yada, and we'll figure them out. So I'm just working my way through that. Not a lot of excitement. I want to get the wiring on the truck sorted out and know what's what before I start to wire in the Sniper. And the reason that I took the fan controller out is because the Sniper has dual fan controls on it that work off of the thermostat on the Sniper, and we can hook when we do the classic car air, we can hook the AC compressor in through the Sniper also, so that the fans come on when the AC comes on. It's going to work out a lot better. And that fan control was dinosauric, and it had fittings or connections broke off on it, so on and so forth. So I'm going to continue getting this wiring cleaned up, and hopefully today, if not today and tomorrow, I can get this Sniper wired and the fuel system ran. Now I'm probably gonna have to, I know I gotta jack the truck up obviously so I can get under it to run the fuel system, but I might have to move it also because we're really close to that garage door. So maybe I can nose it up here and kind of have it sit in here at an angle so I got more room, because it's got a fuel cell at the very back down underneath. And I'm not leaving that door open. Granted, it's not insulated or anything, but it's keeping the wind out. So anyways, that's what I got going on. That's what I'm doing. I'm gonna keep on with the original truck wiring, and then I'll get back to y'all and let you know when I got it all cleaned up. All right, well, I've been working for a few hours now, but you guys didn't miss out on nothing. I got it all jacked up and on stands to where I can get underneath it easy and in and out of it easy. Got the wiring all straightened up, no more clusters and messes and all that. These two wires, I got underneath and hooked up the power wire, the main power wire for the fuse box, and the charge wire off the alternator I hooked to the starter. I wired them like a square body or any newer Chevy would be wired, where your main power comes off of for your fuse box comes off your hot post on your starter, and your charge wire for your alternator goes to your hot post on your starter. So I did that instead of having everything come up here and go around and everything else. According to a wiring schematic, these two wires were for the voltage regulator on the alternator, which we got a standard Chevy alternator now, which doesn't require a voltage regulator. So I may be able to use these to wire in the Sniper or something, or I may just be able to eliminate them altogether. So we'll see. But wiring straightened out. I changed the oil because it had a bunch of gas in it. And that was one of the things I needed to do. So while I was down under there, I went ahead and did it. Hooked the wires up to the starter like I told you. I pulled the fuel lines and the fuel pump off, and I made a fuel pump block off plate. Yes, I made one because I had the stuff around here to do it, and the parts store's 30 minutes away. So it's sitting over here drying. Got it painted up. It's ready to go on when it's dry. And that'll take care of that. Oil change is done. Truck wiring is done. And doesn't seem like a lot, but that truck wire, cleaning up all that truck wiring took quite a bit of time. And so Now I pretty much have everything done. The transmission apparently leaks, so I'm going to see if I can address that for him while the truck is here. Yeah, other than that, fuel system, a couple wires, and we'll be ready to fire her up. So I'm gonna get back on it and see how close we can get. All right, I don't even know how long it's been since the last time I worked on this. I had like 4 videos, 4 projects going on at the same time, and the cold weather and everything else, and it just waiting on parts for stuff, and I don't even know. But I'm back on it. We're doing some dreaming today on Dream On, and we finally got some weather in the 70s, which is good enough to spray some paint. So you guys may have seen this in the first video. You may not have. If you didn't even see the first video, I'll link it here somewhere. But we're doing heating and air conditioning, putting a classic auto air system in, and behind the AC box and everything hadn't been painted, and the rest of the engine compartment had all been painted black. So I taped it off from the inside, covered stuff that was going to get overspray, and we went ahead and shot that black and kind of blended it the best that we could. I don't think it's going to stand out, so it should be all right. We're going to let that dry. That's not what we're working on today. Today we're working on finishing the Holley Sniper Efi install, which consists of running the fuel system, wiring it, and putting some fuel in the tank. Maybe that might help it run, I don't know. Fuel, wiring, pump system, all that stuff. And oh, throttle linkage that we made. I don't know if I showed you guys that yet, but I will here in a minute. Should be sitting over there. So anyways, Holley Sniper, finish installing that. That's the process. We got our Holley Sniper install kit. If you guys weren't aware there was one of these or whatever, 526-5 Holley Sniper TBI fuel system kit. Comes with pump, comes with filters, comes with fittings. Not all these fittings came with it. We ordered some of these for our application. I'll show you that here in a little bit. Comes with hose, so on and so forth. Comes with very detailed instructions. We don't use those, they just get confusing. I'm just joking, we actually do use them. And then here, if you remember earlier in the video, you saw our throttle bracket that was 2 pieces and bent and everything else. I got a new piece of rod. I got it all tapped. I had to wait for a left-handed tap to come in because one end of this is left-handed, one end is right-handed. But that's going to be our new throttle linkage. It looks a lot cleaner and a lot nicer. We'll get it on. We got to get our kickdown cable for our transmission set up and hooked up. And hopefully by the end of today, which should be the end of this video, we'll hit the key on this thing and see if it goes or anything for that matter. So here we go. All right. Last hose right here, and the fuel system will be completely ran. So I'll take you guys underneath and try to show it to you the best that I can, but for the most part it's a bunch of hoses run along the inside of the frame rail, and then it's got the pump and stuff there in the back. But like I said, I'll show it to you the best that I can. This is our feed line that brings the fuel up to the throttle body, and then over here on the other side we got our return. I'll show it all to you the best that I can once I get this line hooked up. So. Had a little bit of fun trying to hook up returns and stuff The returns go in the top of the tank, and it's got a fuel cell mounted under the bed back there, and the fittings come out for the return and the vent come out of the top of the tank, and it's extremely close to the bottom of the bed. And I actually had to make a fitting for the return to make it work. So everything's wet. If it looks shiny or wet, it's all wet because it's raining outside, and it's probably, the dew point's probably somewhere in the 90s. But it is what it is. So all right, that last fuel line's hooked up. Only thing I have left to do that I haven't done yet is go underneath and tie strap all the hoses and stuff up. I didn't do it yet because I wanted to make sure everything was hooked up everywhere before I did it. And I'm probably gonna do something different with this hose here, which I'll show you when I bring you in closer, because I don't like the way that it's holding that other fuel hose up. So we'll figure it out. But I'll bring you guys in closer. I'll get underneath and get all the wires tied up now, and then I'll take you under there and show you. Basically, I'm not going to show you that I ran hoses down the frame rail, but I'll take you under there and show you where the fuel pump is and how it's protected, and the lines running to the tank and stuff. And we'll see how it goes. All right, I've been plugging along slowly but surely. Had a lot of other stuff going on, so I've been trying to get in here and work on this when I can. And I know I keep saying I got a lot of stuff going on, and the very next video, which will probably be coming out later this week or weekend, I'm gonna sit down and explain everything that I got going on and explain to everybody why things haven't been normal with Harmon Garage. So hang tight if you're interested in knowing why everything's screwed up for me. I'm gonna fill everybody in. But anyways, still going on this. Our throttle linkage that we made is hooked up. I got our kickdown cable for our Turbo 350 hooked back up. We got our distributor cap in. It still needs to be wired, but I'll explain that in a second. We've got our relays for our electric fans, which are gonna run off of the Holley now, mounted over here. We got our relay and our fuse for our fuel pump mounted here. Those lines will go down into the frame, run straight back to the fuel pump. This is our wiring. These two plugs here are our wiring for the Holley, and the fuel system is done, which I'll show you guys that before the video's out. We'll get under there and we'll go through the fuel system, but I want to route the wires and hook them up and get the wires and the fuel lines and everything tied up, and then we'll go down there and show you guys that. And yeah, so other than hooking the wires up and putting gas in the tank, the Sniper setup is done. So show you that in a little bit. Now, instead of just hooking up the wiring and getting the Sniper going, there's another part of this project on this vehicle that is part of what we're doing to it. And you guys already know, if you watched the other video, that we've got classic auto air that we're putting on here. I already did this block off plate. I already did this block off plate. I already have all the old stuff out. And what I'm doing right now is I want to get everything mounted in the truck. We got a condenser we're gonna have to put up here, and a dryer. We got the box that needs to go inside. We got a compressor that needs to be mounted. We've got ducting that needs to run, hoses that need to be hooked up, blah, blah, blah. So I'm working on that now. I'm switching over from the Sniper to the classic auto air, and I'm gonna get everything put in, and then I'm gonna wire it all at the same time. And the reason that I wanna do that is because if I've got 2 power wires that need to both hook up to the battery, I can go ahead and hook them together, hook them up, so we don't got 15, you know, eyelets on the battery, stuff like that. And if I've got wires that have to run together, I've got wires from the Holley that will hook up to the air conditioning to shut it off at full throttle and turn fans on when the AC turns on, stuff like that, where that wires together. So I'd rather just do all the wiring at one time rather than having to do some and then do some more and then route somewhere. I already routed some and I got to cut it all back free to tie it up nice and everything. So I'm just going to do all the wiring at one time. Hope that makes sense. So next thing we're going to do is start working on putting all this stuff in the truck, and we'll see how that part goes. Okay, so the first thing it's telling me to do is, this is the defrost assembly, which looks to be also your like lower floor mounts, I guess. But it says to take this like so and install it with the provided screws. Like so, and then we turn this over, and this, let me double check real quick, just make sure I don't screw it up. Alright, and then you take this, like so, and mount it here. Like so. Alright, so now I got that assembled. I guess it doesn't give you any screws or anything to put in this side. So I guess when you put this against the firewall, it just pinches it in there. I'll read into it a little bit better, but that's what it's looking like so far. And I believe the next step is to install it in there. So let's get moved around, see if we can't get that done. Okay, I checked on the defroster assembly and it says right in the instructions that that's gonna seem to be loose until you get it installed, and then it'll pinch it in there. So that's the way it's supposed to be. Next thing it told us to do was install our controls. They're really clean, smooth. I like the way they look, and they mount with the original hardware. Underneath you just bring it in from the back, put the screws in, bada bing bada boom, done. So next thing is to put our box in there. So that's what I'm gonna do. I got it here, I got it ready. Pops is here, he's gonna come out and help me, or come in and help me. He's actually working outside, but he's gonna come in and help me, and we'll get that put in and see what happens after that. Alright, next thing we're doing is installing our box assembly here. Maybe, if I can get it in there. And it says you're supposed to just be able to go in like this. Alright, what it says you're supposed to be able to do isn't going to work, I can tell you that right now. Because it says to do it the opposite way, but we're going to do it this way, because that's how it's going to fit. And that ain't going to work either. Oh, maybe it will. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay. So, get this going. Up there. Hang on, Dad. All right, well, I really wanted to film putting that HVAC box up under the dash because I did a vintage air one time and it wasn't that easy to go in, and a lot of people have reached out to me in the comments and on emails and stuff about how I got the box in because they were having a hard time getting it in. This one, it shows here in the instructions that you go in with it and then tilt it up and then you turn it back and go through the block off plate and the firewall. That didn't really work for me. What I kind of did is I kind of took the back of the box and like took the box in like they're saying to, but then I kind of like stuck it down at an angle and brought the back of the box up so it cleared the bottom of the dash, and then I rolled it back out into like where the glove box would be and then pushed it in and it worked. So that was my experience. It was still a struggle. There's a bolt that has to go in first. This one right here that goes in the bracket down at the bottom inside, and trying to get the bracket's got like movement on it, so trying to get the bracket lined up to get the bolt in was a little bit tough. And then like when you're trying, you got the box in with your fittings coming out through this block off plate, and like you go to do this bolt and then the whole top of the box falls and these pop back out again, and then you got to fight it some more. But it's not the worst thing I've ever done. I'm not like thoroughly complaining that much, but it was kind of a pain. And anyways, it's in. So these are our low side, high side, in and out for our heater core. This bolt still needs to be tightened down, but it is in there with the nut on it. And then as you can see here, we got our box. It is installed, and then it's got two self-tappers that hold it up here. So that's pretty much it for the box install. Now we've got inside we still have to run vents, which I'm assuming is going to be one of the next things we'll do. I got all the vent stuff here and the smaller glove box and that, and we got a valve for our heater core which will go out underneath. And then like we still got our, this is going to be our condenser, I'm sure, and I'm not sure what this is. Maybe it's the condenser, I don't know, but we'll find out in a second. Okay. Oh, that's all our hoses and stuff. Sweet. Okay, so that's what we're gonna have to do. We still got to put our vents in, get them hooked up. We still have to mount our compressor with the kit. We got all that stuff over here. and then they send you all the stuff for the lines, but you have to measure them out and then put the fittings on and take them somewhere and get them crimped. So yeah, we're doing install today. So I have to go pick my daughter up from school, and when I get back, we will do the vents, the compressor, the condenser, and get our lines routed out and stuff, and we'll see what kind of time we got left for the day. All right, I really want to get a lot farther with this today, but it's always something. So went to go pick my daughter up from school, like I told y'all I was going to. And while I was at the school picking her up, Pops called me and said, hey, power just went out at the shop. It's been raining all day, kind of expected. And then my daughter's mom called me and said, hey, there's no power at the house, it's getting cold. Can you just take the daughter somewhere? You know, because she freaks out when there's no power and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So me and Pops took her and went and had fun, and then I was gonna come back tonight and try to bang out a whole bunch of work to finish this video. Well, I'm already a day late on the video. It's getting late. It's already pitch black outside. I'm tired. I've made it quite a ways on this today, so I'm gonna show you guys where we're at, and then we're gonna call this one. So I still haven't gotten the fuel lines and stuff tied up underneath because I haven't run the wiring yet. And so I'll show you guys the underneath stuff the next video when we get to that. But we've got our box in, we got it leveled, we got it all the way that they say it should be. I got our little computer programmer mounted up in there. And we got our drain all set up. And the next step in the process is to run the heater hoses, which I'm gonna have to get new ones because those aren't long enough to reach anymore, because the other box, you know, it had an AC box on it, it's over there, but it came out, the heater core was on the outside of the firewall, so it was up here. So I need longer hoses, which no big deal, I'll go get some. And then there's a pump slash valve that those run through, and so on and so forth. And I've got to cut 3 holes in the dash on this beautiful truck to put vents in. And that's not the kind of stuff that you do when you're tired. So we're gonna call it here. The Sniper is done, except for the wiring, which it's like 4 or 5 wires. The classic auto air, we got to put our condenser in, run our lines, and hook up all our vents and put those in, and run our electronics. Like I said, I want to wire everything at the same time, so I'm waiting to do the wiring until everything's done. And we also have to put our compressor in, which isn't that big a deal, but we're a lot closer to being done than we were when we started, and I think I can knock it out pretty quick from here on out. So I appreciate you guys for watching and hanging out and coming along for all the fun and whatnot. And like I said earlier in the video, watch out for a video later this week that's going to have a lot of explanations and a lot of information in it. And I'm going to tell you guys about a dear friend that's leaving and a new one coming in. So that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Any help I can get right now would be huge, more than I can tell you. So if you can hit the like button, leave me a comment, subscribe, share it to your friends, whatever you can do, I'd really appreciate it. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.